Welcome. I have the two co-founders of Holistic Executive Suites in Boynton Beach. Is that right? Florida.
Yes.
Roseline and Merlinn are here to share their story. They are actually sisters, which I had forgotten about. So they went through our co-working startup school. So I got to know Roslyn really well, but they were kind of dividing and conquering. So I'm just kind of learning their story from post-launch and looking forward to catching up. So thank you two for joining us. It's dinner time for you guys. So the kids and the partners are fending for themselves tonight.
Yes.
Sure,
Awesome.
for sure.
Okay. And for anybody watching on YouTube, Rosalind's kids get to pick her hair color. It's blue. It's super fun. Okay. So let's start. You have kind of a unique audience that you're serving. So tell us a little bit about your individual backgrounds and your co-working story. Co-working, tell me how you describe it, because maybe that's not the right term for what you're doing, but tell us about your kind of professional backgrounds and how you decided one day that you needed to start this business together.
Right. Well, I'll start off.
Okay.
So, my name is Merlin. I am a board certified family nurse practitioner by trade. So, I've been in the health field for over a decade. And how did, we come apart? I never knew what co-working was. I only learned through Roslyn, who has done, multiple travels and just her background, who has been to different various co-working spaces. So, I was trying to venture out on my own and I wanted to start from like a brick and mortar. I quickly realized that that was not feasible for me. And I wanted to start my own practice. And so I found that it was very difficult to start from brick and mortar. It was very expensive. There was a lot of things that I didn't know business wise. And, my sister talked about it and she was like, well, I kind of need a space. You need a space. Well, why don't we create a space for individuals like us? And so that kind of, we kind of birthed it out of a need. Rosin, you want to share yours?
Yep. So like my sister mentioned, my name is Rosalind. I'm a certified project manager, and I've been in the healthcare operations field for closing on 2 decades at this point. And so with the work that I used to do in my corporate days, I traveled a lot, pretty much every other week. I was gone, and a lot of the times I like to work in co-working spaces. I like the environment, the community feel, and one of the things I appreciated was that, just having the ability to go and kind of commune with others, but then also having a concentrated area. And the concepts were always very unique before we kind of saw the merger of some of the larger shared office spaces. And so when Merlene brought that idea, we kind of like just talked it through. We figured out the things that we liked. When we did our market research, we figured out not just with the niche that we are in, we call ourselves kind of like we are the first wellness co-working space here in Palm Beach County. And our focus was really on kind of not only meeting the needs for healthcare practitioners, and that could be a coach, acupuncturist, physicians, or nurse practitioners, but also caring to the needs of that busy entrepreneur, the entrepreneur who appreciates fresh plants, who appreciates having meditation every now and then. And that just appreciates that there's not just a focus on the business, but there's a focus on the business owner. And that was really important for us in terms of creating a community that really was just holistic in nature in terms of thinking about the business, the person, and how the experience for their guests would be as well when they come into the space.
Okay, so you have a few different ideal customer avatars because you're sort of serving your own individual needs in one
Yes.
location.
Mhm.
Merlin, did you start your private practice?
I started it and then I kind of shifted and tabled it a little bit because I had to focus on growing the co-working space and to be able to add minds as a component as well. So I kind of tabled that and I'm still working and developing different things in the background before I bring it to light.
Okay, got it. So
Mhm.
how do you approach the business? Do you both work on it part-time or full-time? How are you managing the business?
I will tell you, this is definitely a full-time endeavor, folks, whoever's listening. You may think you're going to do it part-time.
You're
That's
gonna
not
side hustle it.
necessarily. Yeah, you're going to find it very quickly. It's a full-time thing. But I think we have a really good system. We kind of when we were doing this, we imagined what it would look like to, if we were to scale or our exit strategy as well, whether that was together or individually. And so we have a front house manager and a back house manager role, and as well as a community coordinator, which I think you call it the community managers, Jamie. And then we alternate that role so that we're both invested at different parts. There's some weeks, depending on, what's going on in our personal lives, what's going on with the space or kind of some of the priorities where that may shift in terms of how we split that role, or maybe we come together to share one of the roles. But I really think that helps us keep us grounded in terms of both of us knowing what's going on. And I think that's where there's definitely a benefit to partnership and having, I think, a good familiar relationship as well, where we can really, really know each other. So if I'm really stressed out or she's really stressed out, we can call each other out on that and kind of step in as needed. I don't know if
And
Merlin wants anything to add anything.
yeah, and to add to that, we also keep weekly meetings. So we do force ourselves to sit and talk about the needs of the business or what's priority for the week or where are we, what do our numbers look like, or if there's anything outstanding. We take time and we do that twice out of the week.
Oh,
At
wow. Okay,
least
great.
one. We definitely do.
Okay, I love that. Instead of keeping it casual, like, oh, well, we talk all the time, we know what's going on. You have your formal meetings and go through your numbers and expectations, and I love it. So tell me more about, I remember when you were starting, and I just did a quick Google search of your area, and there is a lot of co-working, executive suite in the area. Maybe it's because it looks like a great place to live, I have to say. But you decided to be a little bit unique. So tell me, so you talked a little bit about who you're serving. So on your website, it has a list of acupuncturists, estheticians, functional medicine experts, kind of more like holistic health focused. How has that played out since you've opened? And remind me, when did you open?
That went off. So we opened back in 2023 in the summer. That's when we had our first full-time members come on board. And then in terms of locally, we had a whole different name picked out. I think when we were going through your startup school, it was a whole different name picked out and different concept. And then we ran our pro forma, and then we had to come to Jesus talk with one another.
In one of your weekly meetings.
Yeah, one of our weekly meetings. And kind of we recognized the need, and then our name also was going to be more co-working shifted, but
Yep.
co-working has actually grown a lot in the last year or so here, just because of the migration of different areas of the country coming here. And so before, everyone was really familiar with executive suites. No one understood when we started testing and doing surveys and such. No one knew what co-working was.
Interesting.
And Merlin's really good at, okay, I don't understand this, or would this person understand? If I didn't talk to you, I wouldn't have known what this was. And so we went back to language, a lot of really keeping it simple. And so we kept holistic because we knew we would draw in certain crowds. And a lot of times people come in just because they're curious, like, what does a holistic executive suite look like? What does it mean? What type of community is that? And so we really focused on that. And then we also, a lot of the research from the Co-working Association, we utilize that to really kind of test, where do we want to be? Do we want to be in a more metropolitan downtown area?
Yeah.
Or the growth that we were seeing in the suburbs? And that's where you're seeing them popping up now. And so where we were placed, we're literally less than 2 miles away from the local hospital. We're right literally a minute off of the major highway here in Florida, 95. Where we are located in the county, great community. The city of Boynton Beach has been really supportive of us. Before we opened our doors, all the way actually into today, they highlighted us. The Economic Development Office highlighted us today in some of their publications and social media. So we really kind of were just forward thinking in terms of where we wanted to be and being competitive with other spaces, and just staying in our niche was really hard. I don't know if Merlin wants to talk about that a little bit, but picking a niche is not for the faint of heart, because you say no to a lot of opportunities.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
You do. I guess I would just say we do have a unique niche, and when individuals do come in, we kind of explain the niche, or we kind of explain what Holistic Executive Suites is about. It's not just any ordinary office space. And as Rosa mentioned before, we picked out our colors. Everything about our space is intentional, right? Even our waiting room is intentional. The colors, the vibe, the music, it's intentional. And so we want to be able to serve individuals, not just your business, but holistically looking at you from different aspects all the way around a total 360. And so when we explain that concept to people, they pretty much understand who it belongs to. But not only are we looking for holistic individuals, it could be a business professional, and they appreciate, like Rosin said, plants or colors or just that feeling like I'm going to work. Where am I stepping into? How do I feel for the day? And we just wanted people to actually feel that. We want you to be able to balance wellness and business while you're doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And your brand, I mean, absolutely does that. We were even talking offline about, the contrast on the book a tour button. And I was like, I totally get that your vibe is very Zen-like and we can't have a bright color there. It's very soothing, but so professional, and your space has so much great light. And I love hearing what the things that you're highlighting about your space also show up in your Google reviews. People are talking about the location and the Zen-like vibe and the hospitality when they come in, and so many positive things about how they feel about the space. So tell us about your membership base. Is it who you expected?
Well, I think when we initially started off, like Rosin was saying, it was very hard. The niche that we wanted, our ideal client, a lot of times we weren't hitting those exact individuals, or we would hit a few of them. Currently, right now in the space, I think we have, I'd say, over like 75% ideally
Mm.
of our ideal clients. And then also, our area has to be zoned for pretty much the ideal client that we're looking for. So that kind of helps weed out certain individuals, I believe, as well. So I'd say 75% are our ideal client, the individuals that we thought would be in the space. At the very beginning, because people didn't understand and it was just executive, we had a couple that totally did not match the concept. And so, easily we would be able to weed them out, or, they wouldn't, finish or follow through and join as a member. Rosin, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think one of the things for us was like identifying like and explaining our concept. Even for us was a challenge at first because we knew like immediately like who we were serving. I think we're the perfect avatars in terms of like that wellness medical practitioner as well as the business professional. And so one of the things that we do is like we actually just talk to people. So we have a lot of people who don't necessarily join our community, but they become part of our community because they want to have their meetings here. They want to do a pop-up here. They want to do a class here for our members because we really have conversations to help understand their business model, what's their workflow, their process, because we want to really make sure it's a fit. Like, for example, we don't have an admin here or front desk receptionist. And so they've got to be comfortable with technology. Their guests have to be comfortable with technology because there's not going to necessarily be someone here for them. And for our members that are here, they love it, right? Because they're like, oh, this is awesome. I get a text message and I get an email and they come right up and they have like the privacy in place where they don't necessarily want to bring them in right away. They can do that. And so finding people who appreciate those things at our different price points in terms of our membership, it's really hard to hold out sometimes for those folks to come by. But I think it's definitely been worth it as we build community. Some people are still with us. Some people have, kind of evolved and grown, or, the alignment wasn't right. But that's great. I think it's amazing that we still have great relationship and dynamic with those individuals. And so we still have the community piece, which is really important to, I think, our niche.
Yeah, when you get into the business, I mean, it's so dynamic, right? People's lives change and people come in and out, and you want to build a community, but that community is constantly sort of evolving and flowing. And so it's
Mhm.
like getting used to that dynamic can be really interesting. So when you say like 75% ideal client, is it practitioners? Is it people who are practicing and kind of utilize the uniqueness of your space?
Yes. So there'll be therapists, counselors, health coaches, nurse practitioners as well,
You have midwives.
Oh,
midwife,
wow.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Midwife, a lot of postpartum. I think a lot of, so it's still the same niche. It's just
Yeah.
some things that we didn't know that
Didn't-
exist specialties. We also looked that apart as we were growing as well.
Yeah.
So how did they find you? Because Merlin, you mentioned when you were thinking about private practice, you immediately thought, well, I have to get my own space. Do these folks know that this is an option? Like, are they aware of the solution, or how do they typically find you?
A lot of individuals who have come in either Google, word of mouth is another great example. Some
And
people just typically walk in. Anything else I'm missing, Rosalind?
so a Facebook Marketplace, because we
Yes.
were kind of like getting nervous right in the beginning. We were like, what is going on? Does nobody
As
have
one
any more
does.
space?
Where is
Yeah.
everyone?
Where
Yes.
is everyone? We built it. Where are they coming?
Yes.
So, as a lesson learned, like Merlin speaks on this heavily, so I'll let her get into it. But marketing was a big, 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 big lesson learning and learning curve because we understood that we reached out to people. Merlin's part of certain medical groups and things. We just didn't realize how often people have to see you. They have to begin building that trust with you. We had somebody call like a couple weeks ago. She's like, "Are you guys still there?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Where would we go? And she's like, "Well, I was thinking about moving and I just want to make sure you guys are still there, because most businesses don't go through the first
Right?
year."
Business is hard. Exactly.
Yes. And so like we have like some of these practices that have moved here, they think about the longevity of kind of their practice and are you going to be stable? Are you consistent in terms of services and in terms of being open? We've had a couple people come by. It's either I think it's a quick turnaround time in terms of the sale. Like they come in, it looks like the pictures, I'm sold, I'm good. And then other times it takes about 4 to 6 weeks really to get them from like their initial contact all the way to that they've been on board and they've done their orientation and they've paid their move-in fees. And so for us, it's really about nurturing relationships. Google has been really good. I will say we'll give a nod to Spacefully. They're amazing. They
Okay.
they came in, we brought them in last year, and I think within the first month they paid for themselves, which is great.
So that's
Um,
interesting, not to interrupt you, but I talk with Ruben fairly often, and he's working with another niche space. He gets niche
mhm,
spaces, right? Because a lot of people now who are doing co-working, right? They've seen more traditional sort of generic spaces and they say, well, I
mhm.
want to do it for this group. And marketing niche spaces is hard. So I know, he's so invested in people's success, but I think, he's learning too and trying to figure out how to make it work. But it's interesting because you show up for co-working. I mean, you show up for sort of the broad, but it's fun to kind of watch, the challenge of serving people with niche spaces and how do you help people find you who are the right fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
And
forgot, we
sure,
almost forgot Merlin, the holistic business network too. We got to receive some referrals from there as well.
true. So
They're local.
joining different communities as well.
Mhm.
That also helps. So we actually joined the Holistic Business Network because that's where our niche of type of individuals
Yeah,
try
interesting.
to
Okay.
um, get some potential members there, and also to continue to build community and just build awareness. Awareness is very important. Networking is extremely important, and just making sure you create that budget for marketing. Because marketing is a beast in itself, and I say it over and over again. There's so many ways to market, and it just keeps going. And marketing does not go away. It's like forever. So just as people
Mhm.
open up, just know that it doesn't go away. It's something that, hey, just put that money to the side for every month. It's a revolving door. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. So Ruben's been able to help you attract ideal clients through ads. Are you still running ads?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah. And we probably will continue to just to keep us up there and we're kind of
Yeah.
relevant in that space as well. So
Yeah. And you're still relatively new and in a pretty competitive market. I mean, you have a niche, which is awesome, and there is also a lot of supply of other types of workspaces. And I love that
mhm.
you did the research and landed on executive suites because that's what people knew at the time.
Yeah.
So, good for you if that wasn't like what you were leaning towards or drawn to, but you're like, well, back to the marketing, right? You have to have like the product market fit. Uh,
Mhm.
and it sounds like one of your other surprises is ads are kind of easy. You have to pay for them, but somebody else does them. You two both have kids, and Merlin, you have a 13-month-old. And so I'm sure networking and doing some of these extra things can be challenging. But to your point, it's good to be consistent and realize like because you do have a niche, the word of mouth is probably even more important. So it's interesting that you're having success with both, like the ads and also the word of mouth, because you're so specific. Like you're really for someone. So if somebody's there who understands the value of the solution, then they'll tell other people about it, which is great. That doesn't
Absolutely.
happen like necessarily with general co-working, people don't have a reason to talk about it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And one of the things I think I really respect marketing folks at this point in my life. Like I will give them all of my dollars. But when we didn't realize the value of building community prior to launching, it would have saved us so much of a headache to build the community and do that. Some of that and marketing is different ways. Like there's like a local market that meets our customer avatars all over the place. Doing some of those things that are a little bit
Mm.
different. Like Marlene said, networking, being visible, getting creative, going to where the healthcare providers already exist, making relationships. Like there's one therapist who shares our things on a regular basis. She kind of has like a nice email list. And so we utilize her, hey, there's this special coming up. And so she'll email that to her group. She doesn't respond to us, but she will send it out because I have some friends who say, hey, I saw your space in an email blast. And so things like that, it's like, because it's not just about like joining some of those communities, it's how you engage with them. Because sometimes we just don't have the time to spend going to a lot of networking events. So we became very intentional about how we spent our time, or if we couldn't attend, we supported in ways that we could, and really ensuring that like we're out here in the community, but we're also not overwhelming ourselves. And yes, pay for the services. I think sometimes we're attracted to barter arrangements. Some work great, and others there's just opportunities or just misalignment in terms of expectations. And so if that's something you're considering, just be very cautious about what that looks like and making it just very clear on what both parties gain, because both parties should gain something. Um, and then just hold each other accountable. And if it doesn't work, just go your separate ways so you end things on a good note is something that we've just learned earlier on. And it's easier just to pay the professionals to kind of do what they do. And it works.
Sometimes it's hard for business owners. We have lots of chronic DIYers out there. I can definitely be one of those people sometimes. Okay, I want to go back to your Facebook Marketplace nugget. Did you post your space on Facebook Marketplace?
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
We
that's
got
not
hit there as well.
interesting. Okay.
And
And
it's people who spend there too, remember? 'Cause it's like a
right.
the different age demographic. Our ads were going nowhere on Facebook.
Huh.
Facebook
Interesting.
Marketplace,
Yep.
we were getting like 2 to 3 tours a week. And we were like, what? And those were for the ones we were saying, yes, we can do that. But there were tons that Merlin and I would say, we were like, we're not zoned for that. We're not zoned for that.
Okay.
We're not zoned for that.
Okay. Huh. Yeah. So,
Social
okay.
media wasn't really where we got a lot of our people through. As some
Mhm.
people think you're spending so much time on social media, trying to post here, trying to post there.
Yep.
And so we had to like kind of come back to the drawing table and focus and hone in. Okay, where are we getting the individuals? Making sure we're asking them when they come to the door, and then shift our focus on where we need to really spend the time and the money.
Mhm.
Not saying, we still have to keep our presence, because a lot of times, like for me, even if I'm going out of town, I'm going somewhere, I do look at Facebook, I mean, it's like Instagram as well, just to see. I'm a visual person, aesthetically pleasing type of person. So I want to see, and I want to see what comments are. So I'm sure there are other people who do that. So you still have to kind of keep up the social media and aspect to that. And then also figure out where your actual tour is coming from and getting people into the door to join.
Yeah. I love how data driven you guys are. You're like, well, we thought this, but we did some research, or we
Mhm.
tried this, the numbers, or we asked people, and here's how they said they were finding us. It's so important. It can be hard to do though. We have all of our own biases and assumptions about how things work. So you guys sound like you're just trying to be really thoughtful and intentional and pivot, not to overuse that cliche, but when you need to kind of change how you're approaching something. What do your members love most about your space?
You want to take that one, Roslyn?
I think the community, like the environment, it's really, it looks like the pictures online. It really does. That's the first thing we always get. And then two, I think they just feel at peace when they come here, right? The air, really, I think live plants are amazing. The air feels different. We include a lot in our space. We don't package everything on, so our price point is just pretty inclusive, and they really serve to like a concierge type practice. And so, as Marlene mentioned, our lobby is very intimate on purpose. It's intentional. Like you should be charging at a price point where your guests aren't waiting for so long, and they appreciate that. There's water, there's things there that they can look at. But when they walk into the space, the colors were intentional. They appeal to men and women. We even looked at scent marketing too. So there are only certain scents that we use in this space because they invoke certain feelings and emotions, and they keep you calm and serene, and you feel like you're in a luxurious, like it was a lot of research, but you feel a certain way when you come here. And I think for a lot of people, they'll come in. I've seen people come in, they just go back into the break room and they just have like some tea. We always have snacks for folks, fresh fruit, juices, things are in there. We got acai bowls. They'll grab them and they eat that and then they leave. So I'm
It's so
like,
funny.
yeah, they look at peace. We have a restoration room as well that I think a lot of people enjoy. And then the activities that we do, the businesses need to thrive and do well. And so every month we have open co-working, which is really, it's open to the public, that we charge for the public, but it's open to our members for free. Any events that we have here, it's either free or discounted for our members, but we focus on a different business topic. We work very closely with the cities. If there's a grant available, is there a feature available? And we bring that to them as soon as possible to say, hey, this is something to benefit, because I think we want to support them as much as possible, because the better they do, the more
Yeah.
stable we are and we can grow with them. And so that's been a very important piece of it as well. So I think they feel very supported while they're here.
Yeah, I love it. I was just looking at your list of amenities on your page, and it's extensive.
Yeah.
Yep. And all of your natural light. I think natural light is so compelling for people when they're looking for a workspace. It's so important. Okay, you've mentioned, a couple of these, but biggest surprises since you have opened.
Marketing for sure.
I think that's the one that probably
Comes to mind.
was more
Yeah.
before that just was like, yeah, here I am. I think it was marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like you
taught
mentioned
us.
it too. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm saying marketing. It definitely taught us, even as, entrepreneurs, I think we realize the importance of marketing for your business. And just, I think also just the community aspect part. And I think as Rosin mentioned, growing that community base before can make it easier, also makes you more visible and everybody knows you're around. And it's like an anticipation. When are they opening? When are they opening? And they know that you're there. So I think those are the two biggest surprises I think we had.
Yeah.
Anything you'd change about the actual space?
Like the physical layout.
Yeah.
One thing we may have done before, like we did this, we brought in a physician consultant so we could understand the business model and how our target, market makes money. And so there were some great nuggets that we got from there. So maybe how we would pivot and shift. And I think towards our business model, what do you say? Maybe owning the building or
There you
owning.
go. Next time. Next space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we
Totally.
went to, was it Bank United who had small business women? We were up for a pitch competition and one of the judges pulled us afterwards and actually told us, the next time, ladies, own your building.
Yeah.
And that's when we started thinking about it and we're like, wow. And then it started developing and people were saying it and we're like, okay, maybe that's what we did. Yeah.
Phase
That was the
2.
biggest thing that she said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now you know. And it's not, yes, it's good to find out if it's approachable in your market. I live in the Bay Area. Not happening. And Florida's getting more and more expensive all the time. So you might want to look into it soon.
Yeah,
true.
we recognize that.
We definitely spoke to someone a few weeks ago and we were hearing how much per square footage. So definitely on our phase 2. So we've already started to try to figure out a plan and so forth. And we're hearing that the square footage is going up.
The good news, and I won't spend too much time on this, but it's easier to find real estate investors who want to be part of the real estate company. So you could make, that be a separate entity and then operate your business out of that, but you have equity in the building and maybe you weren't the only owners, but you're part owners, and then you still lease the space, but you're leasing it from yourselves essentially. and other investors. So that may be one way to approach it. If you can't do it, just the two of you, lots of people do it that way because real estate is so investable. Co-working
Yeah.
space is less investable just because they're, operating businesses. Also, good news is that you have a product that you were really intentional about.
Mm-hmm.
It matches what your ideal client wants because that's really hard to fix. You can pay people to do your marketing and you can
Yeah.
learn marketing. I mean, I think the lessons that you're learning, some of them you just have to live through, right? And you just have to discover these things on your own, but you can't change your product. So doing the work up front to really understand that and the fact that you're, happy with that and that it's a fit with what your market wants, then you just have to match the two together. So that's what you're working on and you're doing all the right things there. So I love that. What do you each love most about the business, Merlin?
I think one, the flexibility of it, just being able to come in and out, it is kind of taxing after a day's work and just family, but just knowing that this is a goal. Every day you have a goal, everything you have something that you're waking up to and that, you're working towards. I think for me, it's just the goal, building community, learning about different people, different businesses that, you know, are out there that you may have not known. I think that's something that I love, just being in it and just learning as a person, as a business person. Like, I personally never foresaw me owning or being part of a business. And so for me, it's just like, and even just thinking of other, plethora of other business ideas that could be developed from this. So I'm learning as
Uh-oh.
well. The business is learning.
More business ideas are percolating.
That's what I would say for my part.
Rosalind, what do you love most?
Definitely the community. And I really like the business development aspect of learning about these different niches and different types of entrepreneurs and businesses. And so, like, it's led to us, even we do some training and workshops now for business development. Because one of
Okay.
the things, yeah, we don't do that normally here, but we recognized it was a big gap for certain membership tiers that we have. And just it also is a good lead in for us because as we do these workshops, a lot of these people end up becoming, some of our part-time members or virtual memberships as well. And so we do these workshops just of like how to open, a business in general and then ideate with them in terms of some of their workflow processes. Merlin's consulted a couple times as well on just some of the wellness practitioners and just talking through what does it look like, workflow and all that. And so being able to support them on that side, I really love ideating a lot with some of our members here. And so we can pull them aside or they'll pull us aside and say, hey, I have a quick question, which usually turns into a long session. But it is nice to have that community because when you're sitting at home and you're kind of looking at the wall and you're like, where are the people going to come from? Can this really happen? Being in a space where you knew that, it was birthed from a vision. It was created for you to be a part of this community. And then you see other business owners in there. You see them with their guests. And it kind of builds the anticipation and kind of helps some of our members get motivated in terms of growing their businesses. And so that really kind of brings us full circle in terms of the mission that we have because we're doing it intentionally. They get to do it intentionally, but also in a space where someone's reminding them to check in on themselves as well.
And the confidence too.
Yeah.
I know I was just thinking as you were talking, I was listening to a podcast recently, Andrew Huberman. I don't know if you guys know
Mhm.
who he is, but he had a guest on and they were talking about loneliness and they always go back to some sort of like, evolutionary, like how are we wired? And they were basically saying like we're not actually wired to solve a loneliness problem because, back in the day we had like our, villages, our tribes. Like you had people
Mhm.
who were very, very close to you and you all depended on each other day and night for food and safety and shelter. And so like the early version of us was not wired to need people for
Yeah.
motivation, for connection, for confidence, like all the things you're talking about, like that just was not a thing. We were wired to go like hunt and gather and, some of those other things. And so today we've got this like loneliness epidemic. So I was thinking about that and thinking about the things you talk about, like these intangible benefits of being in a professional space. It's like so hard to communicate to people and so hard to like help them understand if they don't just try it, how
Exactly.
life-changing that can be. So I think in some regards, if people need a space, like you're a practitioner and you can't see clients in your living room, then that benefits you. But as an industry, it's still challenging to market to people who don't need the space because,
Hmm.
it's such a like an intangible benefit sometimes, to get out of your house, to be in community, to come into a beautiful space with great light and plants. Like, you can talk somebody into it, but to get them to act on that is harder than we think it would be. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's a good like intellectual challenge. What made you decide to join the startup school?
You?
Were you a podcast listener?
Yes, I'm a big podcaster.
Yeah.
But for us, it was the expertise. I think, was it? I can't remember what Ray said. She was like, I don't
It
have
was
time.
there's no one else out there who understands co-working. So you kind of have to be where everybody kind of understands the lingo. And I think, the course was the only one, and I think, Jamie, you're the only one out there that's literally doing this, and, kudos, because without you, I don't know how a lot of these operators, would have survived. Like, just the tips, just knowing, just being amongst the community that understands, that speaks your language.
Mhm.
So, everything
I know
co-working
when you
that
guys
I
said it's
know.
scary. It's scary to pick a niche. I hear you. I'm
Oh, yeah.
with you.
There were
You
a
know?
couple other niches, I think, in the cohort that we were in. So we check in with them periodically as well. But even when with doing your course from an operations standpoint, like doing the pro forma, going through that exercise, some of the documentation that we needed to help get us our doors open, like that was like we did the pro forma, that was a deciding factor between us going here and another space. The other space, it was in a CRA district, which if you're not familiar with, it's a community redevelopment area. And usually you get like grants and things. But
Uh-huh.
when we did the pro forma, even with us getting
Yeah.
the renovation monies and everything, it just didn't make
Wouldn't
sense
work.
financially for us to move forward with it. So doing the work is worth it. And then I think being able to do it in micro lessons, because we were both busy professionals, doing this on the side to open, you said that we
Yeah.
had to still keep doing our other things to help get the funding to get this started. For us, it was really helpful and it was just time saving. Like I think we saved by going through the course versus spending and you got to really look at it that because we saved time and effort because we would have paid, I don't know how many people to do all of that work. But by taking the course, we cut down on time and effort and energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a space that would have been the wrong product for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
would have been beautiful, but we would have been at the 5-year mark crying because we would have just broke even probably.
Yeah. I know those decisions are hard to make. Well, kudos to you because I think one of the challenges for my business is that people are overconfident and think I can figure this out. So, they don't, do the work or they don't want to know. They find the space that they love and they don't really want to do the work to make sure it's right. They just want it to be right. So, I love that you two did the work and it's clearly paying off. Okay, any other parting advice if somebody was in your shoes and was getting started? Any other pieces of wisdom that you would impart besides start marketing early?
I would say get involved with the city where you're going to be located. Understand what's coming down. We had to pivot pretty early because it was, there was that shift and everybody was afraid of us going into recession. So we were like, oh great, we're offering very like a niche and a very like higher end price point. It was still within the market in terms of pricing, but it was on the higher end and we were niching it. So, and then everyone was like, oh, we're going into recession. And so we're like, it's not going to affect us. It's not going to affect us. It's affecting us. It's affecting us. And so I think by doing and working with the local city, it helped us in terms of understanding what was coming down, what businesses, where they were advertising. So we could kind of piggyback off of their ads because then Boynton Beach was coming up as a place to live, as a place that was affordable for families. And then people had to think about, where they wanted their businesses. And so I think that's very important to me. Like the numbers are very important, understanding where you're going to be. It can't just be about it being pretty because you could be here sitting pretty by yourself. And so that's not fun because you're kind of like, okay, no more hard work. There's no hard hat tours today. They'll come next week. No. And so earlier on that you know the numbers and the more consistent you are with looking at those, like I don't like our weekly meetings twice a week. Marlene is very religious about those meetings. Yeah, we had a conversation, but that didn't really count. We didn't go through all the agenda items. So we need to have a meeting.
I
Am I
love
coming over
it.
at 6? Again, she's my sister, so it's a little bit different. She's like, I know that you're free. I can see, on your ring that you're at home. So I'll stop by. We can have a quick 30.
I can see your location right now. I know what you're doing.
So it's very important, I think, just being honest with yourself up front and collaboration with your cities, the groups that you join. It will propel you faster than you kind of doing it on, like you said, by yourself because you don't want to know.
Yeah.
I'll add to what Rosalind said. Besides the marketing, having a community ahead of time and being involved in your community, also your business plan is so important. And I don't know how many despite you having that business plan, it can shift, it can move. If you get stuck in your business, go back to your business plan. I say that your business plan is your Bible. That is your Bible. And if you need to go back for some inspiration or you're stuck, go back to those numbers, go back to what you said, go back to your goal, go back, revisit your mission. Definitely your business plan is a number one. And I'm glad that we had that built in as well as part of the entire thing.
It's kind of like your North Star. It's easy as entrepreneurs to get, discouraged or distracted. It's like, no, what are we here for? What did we say we were going to do? And how did we say we were going to do it?
Right.
Okay. I have a really quick tactical question. You don't have pricing on your website. Is that because your offerings are kind of unique and you need to walk people through it, or tell me about that?
Yes. So we used to have pricing on our website. We're if someone calls, we're very transparent, but
Okay.
we have to understand their business model. We kind of help slot them. And that's what it comes down to because when you put the price on the website, people don't understand sometimes, especially with our space, we include like utilities. If they're a medical practitioner, they're thinking, okay, I gotta have access to sink and water, and we have a medical lab, like the pass-through area. And so they're thinking like, okay, on top of whatever fees on their website, I'm gonna have to pay for internet. Like we have fiber, printing is included. So we want to make sure that they understand that fully. Some people don't have the time to come in, they call. We have a more detailed like picture list and amenities, but that's really so that we can help them understand how we're structured and we can understand them too. And we refer out. We don't if we realize quickly that it's not within their budget, it's not going to happen, or we don't have the availability. We have some partnerships with a couple other shared spaces here locally that we will refer out. They called us the other day, like, hey, we ran out of your flyers. Can you bring some more? And so that has been really helpful as well because sometimes we act as referral partners, and I think it's just kind of building community. But we don't feel the need to kind of do that. They call us if they want another price and we explain, okay, what, get more details and we'll give them the price at that point. And Marlene, would you agree, like, if we break it down, the daily price is what a lot of people care about too? I think that's more
And we
appealing.
found that was more appealing to
Like
break
a
it
reference
down.
point, like how they think about,
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was weird. And so, because sometimes you would put the number, it looked big to them, right? And they don't know, like Rosin said, what's included in that
Yeah.
price. They may think there's things in addition that they have to pay, like, oh no. And then when you broke it down daily, it was more appealing. Like you would probably get more calls or inquiries.
Mhm.
And then, you would further explain to them, hey, this is what's included, et cetera. So, but if they call, we are
You
very
just tell them.
transparent, like
Yeah.
Rosin said. And when they come in for a tour, it also, they'll see what they're getting for the price and the different rooms, the different areas, window versus no sink. So it's all included in that as well.
Got it. Makes sense. Just had to ask. Okay, I'm going to let you two get back to your families. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, especially because you have such a unique model. I mean, Rosalind, as you said, we have folks come through who do all sorts of different things. It's so helpful for people, since you're a podcast listener.
Yes.
These are like fan favorites because they love getting the behind the scenes on somebody else's model and things that work and aren't working. And so without people like you, we wouldn't have these types of episodes. So thank you for taking the time to do this and congratulations.
Thank you.
So much, Jamie. And thank you for like your contribution. You may not recognize it, but we go back to all of our worksheets. We were one of the ones who downloaded everything. So they helped us when we were developing SOPs and things like that. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You are
We're
welcome.
very grateful. We're very grateful, Jamie, for everything co-working and the community that you built, and also that course was definitely gave us a guide and a light. And, we just look forward to the journey and what's ahead.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you.